So for my subscriber specials, I always like to try to do something a little different. This time, I figured I would do a review of one of my favorite Disney movies, The Rescuers. I feel one of the reasons I hold this movie in such high esteem is because of the experience that I had with it. Let's go back to when Blockbuster was a thing. I love Blockbuster. One of my popular rents for a while was The Rescuers Down Under. After watching it several times, somebody told me that this was a sequel, to which my little brain went, what, there's more? What is it called? And then they just said it's called The Rescuers. With this new knowledge, I would attempt to look for this movie every time I go into Blockbuster. However, by the time they closed down, I only ever found The Rescuers Down Under, and would occasionally rent it just kind of out of, it's not what I was looking for, but it's still pretty good. Or I'd occasionally just rent Scooby-Doo episodes. Being close to Canada, occasionally we get a few stations. I believe one of them is called CBC. I want to say it's the Canadian Broadcasting Channel or something like that. Every Sunday night from about 5 to 7, they play a movie. Sometimes a Disney movie, sometimes a Don Bluth film like The Land Before Time or An American Tail. There was one time I tuned into the tail end of this one movie. I had no idea what the name of it was. So I asked my parents, what is this? To which they replied, The Rescuers. It was about the last 10 minutes, but for those 10 minutes I was just staring at the screen going, because it was just so good. I wanted to know what was going on, what happened, what led up to all these fantastic events. So from then on, I made sure that I was tuned into that station. However, that was a dead end as well, as our cable provider changed and we no longer got that station. From there, I basically went to every thrift store I could find, trying to see if someone somewhere had a copy of the movie. It took years, and I had very little success. Then by chance, I just looked at the shelf one time, and I saw just this random tape, like this, shoved like a random book. I kind of read the front of it, but I couldn't make out what it said. I turned it around, and I saw what I was looking for. The Rescuers. This is the very same tape that I found on that day. After years of searching, I have finally found it. As soon as I got home, I popped this thing right into the VCR. Now, from my experience, when something is built up as much as this movie was for me, it can only go of one of two ways. Either you're going to be left disappointed because your expectations were so sky high, or your expectations are going to be shattered. And mine were shattered. I was just hooked from the beginning to the end. I love this movie. And I remember by the time I got to this movie, I was just about to go into junior high. However, before that week, I was just watching this movie non-stop. I loved it. I wanted to see more of it. It was just one of the greatest movies that I had ever seen at that point. I remember even at junior high, I was just daydreaming about being able to watch this movie again. So you may be wondering, how in the world did I get the full case if I only started with just the tape itself? Well, there's two rather fun stories about that. The first story involves a trip to the Canadian border. I just find it weird how many connections this movie has to Canada for me. Essentially, it's kind of a personal story, but all you need to know is that I had to drive pretty much about 10 miles away from Canada, which was about a 4-hour trip, for something very important. On my little trip, I passed by this one thrift store. I was making pretty good time, so I figured, why not take a look? It's kind of fun to note that it was about this time I was really getting into trying to find an old knob and tube TV. There was actually one outside, but it was a bit more expensive than I wanted to pay for. I went inside and took a look around. And there, I found The Rescuers, the case and tape on a shelf with a whole bunch of other Disney movies. And so, it was only like $3, and I bought it for this particular tape, and it's been a complete set ever since. Now, the interesting thing is that I took that particular tape out and donated that to the Salvation Army, which is where I found this one. I almost kind of wonder if maybe I inspired a very similar story to the one I'm telling you right now. There's a shower thought. Many years passed, and there was a rumor starting around that all of a sudden Disney movies were worth a lot of money. They were dubbed the Black Diamond Collection. The main reason for this is that all of them had a little black diamond in the corner, labeled the classics. I was going around through garage sales, thrift stores, any place I could find at the potential hope that I could sell one of these bad boys for thousands of dollars. Obviously, it was revealed to be a pretty big scam afterwards, but I was only out maybe $10, so that could have been a lot worse. So anyways, the main thing is there was this one garage sale I went to that just had all of them. The person just wanted it out of their house. They had been collecting it for years and hoping that it would be worth something, but they gave up, which was just the perfect opportunity for me. I bought each of them for 50 cents a piece. I felt a little guilty about just buying the whole guy's stock for $10, so I just bought what I thought would be the most valuable. One of them was a copy of The Rescuers, but not just any copy. This was in pretty mint condition. I mean, this right here is, spoiler alert, this is the case I actually bought at that one garage sale. And it's in fantastic shape. It's practically brand new. In fact, it even still has the original price tag in the corner. And what's even more interesting is when you open it up, there's still the original advertisements in it. And on top of that, it's really crisp. I think this case has only been open ever since I owned it. But anyway, let's just kind of go over some of these ads. So the first one is an ad for Beauty and the Beast. Coming to video October 30th. So that kind of shows how old this tape is. And let's see, what do we got inside? Well, this just seems a little weird that the first page of the Rescuers advertisement is advertising the Rescuers. And in all honesty, I think this is a much more entertaining picture than the one that's on the actual cover. But then this right here, I have a feeling to a collector that this single piece of paper would probably be worth a lot of money. Save for proof of purchase. Why is there only red, black, and white on this thing? So as you can see, this movie has some nostalgia for me. I mean, maybe I'm just reading too much into the definition, but I always thought something that was nostalgic was something that you had from, say, your elementary school years. But then there was a period of years where you didn't have it, and then you recently found it years later. This is more the opposite. I never had it until junior high school, and ever since then I've always had it. I just don't watch it very often because, well, I'm the kind of person that if I enjoy something, I don't want to run it right into the ground. That's what I did with The Rescuers Down Under. And I never really wanted that to happen to this movie either. So before we start the review, I figure I might as well get this little tidbit out of the way. There is an urban legend going around that apparently there is a naked woman for about 5 cells of the movie. I've done a little bit of research into this, and the basic story is, so when this movie was first released, it was released under the classics motif. And then years later, it was released under what was known as the Masterpiece Collection. They say it was during this Masterpiece Collection that some parents and some kids started to notice these 5 extra frames. Somehow, I mean, you have to know it's there already and have a halfway decent VCR to be able to go frame by frame and watch it. But anyway, as it goes, there was outrage, and then there was a mass recall. And then the new release removed those 5 frames and went back to the negatives that Classics one had. So, if such a thing exists, it would be under the Masterpiece Collection. And there was one time I tried to find this rumor myself, and I did buy a tape, and it said on it, revised. So I guess if you can find one that doesn't say revised, it's probably a collector's item. I'm not sure if anybody's going to pay that much money for it, but still, an interesting curio nonetheless. So just a basic rundown of the history. So first we had the Classics, then we had the Masterpiece Collection, which was followed by the Gold Collection. After that, they probably went the diamond or platinum. I don't know. Once they got the DVD, it's just like Ultra HD, Ultra HD, realistic. And then the labels just got out of hand from there. I also want to state that this review is obviously going to be black and white. I feel like I'm playing with fire by trying to review a Disney property. But I feel like maybe if I add in enough effects as well as just me talking over it every so often, I might just get away with getting a few ads on my videos rather than a straight out copyright strike. So, let's bring the nostalgia.
And now, our feature presentation.
Unlike most Disney movies that open with a very sprightly little tune or maybe a great fanfare, this one starts out with only the sound of thunder cracking. As we fade in, we see a derelict riverboat in a putrid swamp. The music comes in very dark when a shadowy figure opens a door, takes a look around. Seeing the coast is clear, they go out, only to see two alligators are watching this figure with malevolence. The figure drops a bottle in the water, and the credits roll. So right away you can tell that this movie wanted to be really different. Not only is it the first one to have a pre-title sequence, but also showing this dark, mysterious imagery that just leaves you asking a whole bunch of questions. I love this opening song here, and it usually stays in my head for at least a couple days after hearing it. But these titles, sure it's well painted, but why is it just a series of stills? I want to see the bottle bobbing up and down in the water, being sprayed by the foam of the sea, covered with mist, but yet somehow trudging through on its perilous journey. The movie lightens up a little bit by going to New York City, specifically the United Nations. Here, we see that mice also have their own organization called the Rescue Aid Society, which, based off of their founder, has been around since before AD was used. There's a theme song, which is a little cringy, but it isn't meant to be well sung. It's just the members reciting their creed. We establish two important aspects here. The janitor, named Bernard, dreams of being part of the organization, and there appears to be a new member named Miss Bianca. So fun fact for you, the voice of Miss Bianca is Eva Gabor, who also lended her voice talents to Duchess in the Aristocats. Talk about a role reversal. The song is over when the chairman has the bottle brought in. Bernard is in charge of getting this message out, where we find he is really superstitious. The ladder he uses has 13 steps on it, and this seems to be a bad omen. He falls into the bottle, but is able to get the message out. With the mix of the letter being written by a small child, as well as being tossed around by the sea, there isn't really a whole lot to go on. A name, Penny, and a location, Morningside Orphanage, New York. Feeling sorry for the little girl, Miss Bianca wants to take the assignment herself. There is some hesitation when Bernard breaks in. He says that Miss Bianca should stay here where it's safe. So the chairman recommends she takes a co-agent, to which she picks Bernard. I feel this should have come off as a great honor, something that Bernard had been striving for his entire life, but it just kind of comes off as him being a little, I don't want to do this. Since their only lead is Morningside Orphanage, they go there first. Miss Bianca suggests a shortcut through the zoo, but a lion growls and scares both of them into taking the long way. Love how Bernard's hat is magic. We see him have it here before entering the zoo, then lose it while running away, only to have it back on his head again. At the orphanage, we gather that Penny's disappearance is a strange one, a case where even investigators gave up weeks ago. They do run into a lead given from Rufus the Cat, who gives a story about keeping faith. Not in a spiritual sense, but in the idea that life can get better afterwards. He ends the story with a clue of some trashy people that own a pawn shop. Once again, with their only lead, they head to the pawn shop. If you look closely, you will find a few nice pieces of information. Medusa is selling guns,
as well as a member of the NRA. This is something that comes up later, but probably the biggest thing is the calendar saying Thursday the 12th, playing on Bernard's superstitious nature. While investigating the shop, they find a book belonging to Penny.
Look, I know this is for convenience, but don't you think the police would have found this a tad bit suspicious that a little girl goes missing and then poof, there is a little girl's book with the same name on the inside? Again, Medusa could just say that somebody pawned it off to her for a few dollars.
They continue their investigation. The phone rings, and we see what this mysterious Medusa looks like. At first, she seems happy about a diamond, but then turns quickly to anger. She hears that a little girl has been sending messages in bottles. Hating her partner's incompetence, and simply being a woman of action, she goes down to Devil's Bayou.
So I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here. Now, the original design for Medusa was actually meant to be Cruella de Vil's sister. While this concept was scrapped, I still feel like there are a few similarities between the two characters. In 101 Dalmatians, Cruella de Vil's hideout is known as Hell Hall. In The Rescuers, Medusa's hideout is Devil's Bayou. So it's interesting that both kind of share that satanic theme. There's also their love for classic cars. We briefly see what Medusa's old car looks like, and we definitely see what Cruella de Vil's old car looks like. Other than that, the only similarities I can think of is that you could just tell that both actresses just had a ball voicing these characters. And also it seems like they're kind of sway in the same way every so often. It's hard to explain, but if you see them side by side, you'll know what I mean.
Anyways, Medusa wastes no time in getting back. Bernard is able to sneak into the suitcase, but Miss Bianca is not as lucky. She does manage to get into the car, alright though. I always kind of laugh whenever I see this part. How Medusa's just doing a wheelie so casually and just drives on like nothing happened. Also, may I point out that this is New York City in the 1970s. How does she only see one car on the road? Even that late at night, there should be several. Roadhog! The car takes a sharp turn, sending the two mice and her luggage flying out of the car. After regrouping, the mice plan a flight through Devil's Bayou. One of the things I never understood about this movie is, where is the air traffic controller? When Bernard and Bianca arrive, Orville is asking for permission to land. But it's only Bernard that does so.
Was the other guy out? Did he not show up to work? Is he on break? Where is he?
Bernard isn't too keen for going on Flight 13. He gives Orville the permission to land. There are two animation flaws here. First, note that Bernard turns the volume off, but when they switch to the background painting, the switch is still in the on position. Then, Miss Bianca magically has her coat on after taking it off. Where's she getting her jacket from? I'd like that. Here's a fun bit of trivia. An albatross, which is what Orville is, can never stick the landing.
If you were to see an actual albatross land and take off, you would find that the animators took a lot of inspiration from the real thing.
Orville takes off, and according to Bernard, he runs a red light.
This prompts a line that I've never heard before until my most recent viewing for this review.
Oh, I do that all the time, darling.
That is hilarious. But it also raises several questions. So, do the mice have their own highway systems? I mean, we see earlier in the movie that Bernard and Bianca are able to travel by human buses and human cars. So, do they drive themselves, or is the owner of the car they hopped into the one running all these red lights?
While flying, Orville loses his feet, and we get a montage.
Well, the song isn't bad. I feel like it takes away from that urgency of needing to get the Devil's Bayou before Medusa can harm Penny in it. But instead we just get this nice mellow tune while they show the brilliant landscape. It's well animated, but I feel like this scene doesn't really need to be here. I mean, you might as well just cut to the end of the song where you see Bernard and Bianca starting to get a little bit of a relationship going. That's all that this scene needs to establish.
Also, what's up with Bernard's eyes here? This also appears again to Miss Bianca later in the film. Was the cell dirty? Come to think of it, was this remastered out in later releases? Whatever. We cut back to the bayou, where the pacing is back on again. Penny attempts to run away, very similar to Mowgli from the Jungle Book, I might add. When Penny doesn't answer, Medusa brings out her pet alligators.
How hard of a woman can you be to tame live alligators? In fact, that raises another question. Did she just pick these alligators up from the bayou, or did she just bring them from home? Which, either way, Medusa is just awesome. So here's a quick tangent. The alligators are named Nero and Brutus. So this is going back to Roman history. So we have Brutus, who basically was the first to stab Caesar to death, and we have Nero, the emperor that supposedly set Rome on fire while he was playing his fiddle to it the whole time. It's kind of interesting that they decided to go with Roman names here when we have the name Medusa, who was named after the Greek Gorgon, where basically they weren't the prettiest person to look at, and if you saw their eyes, you would turn to stone. Kind of an interesting theme there.
While Medusa searches the swamp, Mr. Snoop sets off fireworks to light it up.
I guess this is a hobby of his, or were they stashed aboard the ferry boat?
A few of these fireworks take down Orville. However, Bernard and Bianca make it out all right. The townfolk give exposition about Penny and Medusa. The people there hate Medusa.
Probably for the fact of abusing the little girl. I can't imagine why these swamp folk are so hateful towards Medusa for much else.
She has attempted to run away before, and this turns out to be another failure. I love how Penny is so used to this. She just says,
"Don't you dare get my teddy bear wet."
She's returned to the ferry boat when Medusa comes back. We find that Penny was abducted because of her size. She is the only one that can fit into what's known as the black hole. All we are told is that there is a massive treasure inside it, including a one-of-a-kind diamond called the Devil's Eye. Hearing all this, Bernard states they must free her tonight. Before they do so, they have to fend off the alligators. They attempt to hide in the pipe organ, but they quickly realize that the air from the pipes can draw the mice out. What's odd is, while this is going on, Medusa is consulting the map again, where it's called Black Bayou instead of Devil's Bayou?
I'm gonna guess that was the old name for it, but was later changed for obvious reasons.
I love how Medusa hears this music and knows immediately it's Nero and Brutus. She whacks one of them on the head. Honestly, I can't tell them apart. To reveal Bernard. This right here feels really off with how much I was going on about how fearless Medusa is. She sees the mouse and immediately freaks out, begging Snoops to kill it. Then after Snoops can't get it, she fires at them with her shotgun. I like to think it's her membership of the NRA that makes her a halfway decent shot with this.
Now, I'm no firearms expert. I have been watching one a lot recently, and I can honestly say I have no idea what type of gun this is. I can tell for sure it's a shotgun because you can see little pellets every so often, as well as the red casing pop out every so often. Those are definitely telltale signs of a shotgun. But it's weird that it's automatic. Usually it's pump action. And on top of that, there's something almost machine gun-like with the way the armrest is. I almost wonder if maybe they just kind of amalgamated threatening-looking weapons into one thing rather than based it off a real-life equivalent.
In the scuffle, Bernard and Bianca are ejected out, where one of the swamp folks, Evenrude, comes to pick them up in a boat. I love this subtle joke. Evenrude is an outboard motor company. Whether they're in business still, I have no idea. Still though, pretty clever. While they regroup, Medusa tries to convince Penny to get the diamond. She tries being sweet at first. After that doesn't work, she breaks her spirit. We get another montage here.
The song here is pretty good. According to the back of the box, it even secured the movie an Oscar nomination. But like the other songs in this movie, aside from the first one, it just doesn't seem like much of a point to them. I mean, you can sum up what's in these songs rather easily with just a few little scenes. In fact, you don't even need the singing. You can make it even more dramatic by just showing Penny having a breakdown and crying there. And then maybe there'd be a voiceover of Rufus the cat saying, "Faith is a bluebird." And then you see the bluebird fly away, and then all of a sudden she's happy about it, thinking back to her days at the orphanage and realizing that things can get better from here.
The mice are then able to get the penny, and they form a plan of escape, which is followed by Penny's impression of Medusa.
I still don't know why this is here, to show that the kid still has some resilience, to be cute for the kids in the audience. It almost seems to throw the whole tone out of whack. It seems like there are moments where this movie wants to be dark and gritty, and then they're kind of going like, wait a minute, there's kids in this audience. We need to make it a little lighthearted for them.
Bernard calls to Evinrude, says to round up the neighbors for an escape plan. He is unable to make it after just barely escaping from a swarm of bats. The next day, Penny is sent down the black hole. Medusa tries being nice again, but loses her patience and forces her down into the hole. Another fun moment happens here. Bianca notes how horrible the hole is, which Penny describes it as an old pirate's cave. Bianca then asks, "How do you know that?" Then points at a skeleton wearing a pirate's hat that was stabbed.
Once again, I just find it so hilarious how desensitized to all this Penny is.
There's a section with a giant whirlpool in the middle. Across it, Penny shines her light, and a dazzling ray of colors fills the cave. Further inspection, they find out it's the devil's eye. Though the mice were able to get across all right, Penny is nearly eaten by the hole when water pushes her up. Penny begs Medusa to be pulled up, but not until she gets the diamond. It's stuck in a skull, and the mice are unable to get it out. Penny then comes in, cracking the jaw and getting the diamond. What I like here is how, even with her one ticket to freedom, she still stays behind to make sure the mice are still alright. One more burst, and she's out with the diamond. Medusa grabs it, ignoring Penny. Luckily, she gets out of the bucket, otherwise she would have been stuck down there forever. Greed then starts to consume Medusa, and she claims that the diamond is all hers. When they get back to the boat, Evinrude makes one last-ditch effort to get to the neighbors, and tells them to storm the ferry boat. There they are filled in, and the plan goes into action. Before this, Medusa has Penny and Snoops at gunpoint. In her hands is Penny's teddy bear, which the eyes just get really big in this scene for some reason. This is in order to hide the diamond. She says if anybody follows her, she'll blast them. She backs away slowly, the swamp folk trip her up. It's then a three-way competition to get the teddy bear. Penny is able to get to Medusa's swampmobile when she takes a shot at her, inches from her head. She's about to take another shot when the gun explodes. Odd they reuse the sound effect from the Jungle Book as well. He is able to get it started. However, the tow rope is still just long enough for Medusa to grab a hold. She is having a hard time staying above water when her alligators assist her. However, she is enraged at them and starts whipping them angrily. The rope snaps, and she slams into the smokestack. Snoops, well, a little torn, is fine, while Medusa is left at the mercy of her alligators. We then jump to the epilogue. Penny manages to give the diamond to the Smithsonian Institute, and with her story being public, is quickly adopted. While on TV, she wishes to say hi to Bernard and Bianca. The newscaster is speechless, but plays along with it. Then the broadcast ends, and Evenrude sends a new mission.
Fortunately, it's not a little boy that gets lost in Australia like you would think.
Right off into the sunset, on a Friday the 13th, I might add, and the movie ends.
Yeah, so that's The Rescuers. While it is definitely my favorite Disney movie, I am not ignorant of its flaws. So the first thing to mention is the animation itself. It just seems like when you look back to older Disney animation, or even stuff around that same time, say The Fox and the Hound, it just feels like they cheaped out here. This was an afterthought rather than a priority. The story feels rather underdeveloped. I mean, there's so many unanswered questions. So the first thing is, where did Medusa get this treasure map? Did somebody pawn off an old book and she found it there? Was it Mr. Snoops, but he just couldn't afford an expedition to go to Devil's Bayou to pick it up himself? Was it a family treasure and nobody was really successful in getting it before Medusa? Yeah, could it be possible that that riverboat was perhaps Medusa or Mr. Snoops' ancestor trying to look for that diamond but failing horribly? And then you have this relationship between Mr. Snoops and Medusa. Are they married? Is her full name Medusa Snoops? Are they just business partners? Are they maybe related, like first or second cousins or something? If I come to think of it, is it possible that maybe Mr. Snoops has a Mrs. Snoops at home he's been trying to get the money for? Or perhaps there's a Mr. Medusa out there, I don't know. I mean, this came out in the 1970s. I highly doubt there was going to be a Mrs. Medusa and Mr. Snoops too. Who was the pirate that buried the Devil's Eye in the first place? And a name of the Devil's Eye, couldn't you come up with a little more mythos? Maybe the idea that it's called that because if you look into the diamond long enough, you will actually get the Devil's Eyes for greed. So for all those moments you can answer all these questions, you just have random musical numbers and Penny doing a cute Medusa impression. I want to know more about this story. I love this universe. I want to explore these characters more. There's so much more you can expound upon. If Disney is going to keep up this trend of real-life remakes, here is one right here. This is just begging for a real-life remake. There you can expand the story as well as answer all those questions that I brought forward. If I were to direct the real-life version of this movie, there are several things I refuse to budge on. The first thing is that Medusa is not a sympathetic villain. Her only desire is the Devil's Eye, and she abducts an innocent child to be able to get these beans, and then betrays her business partner just because she wanted all the money to herself. Why do we want to sympathize with that? If we're going to have a message of female empowerment, it's going to be done through either Penny, with just her resilience and putting up with this horrible situation, as well as not giving up on any of her runaway attempts, or we're going to have it on Miss Bianca. Somebody who was severely underestimated, and it's their first mission, so they have to prove themselves. Yet through thick and thin, she still sticks it out with her partner Bernard. Medusa is still going to need to have those alligators. You can see them trying to put in like big dogs or something like that. No. Medusa has pet alligators, which is far more intimidating than any other animal I can think of. Unless she had like pet wolverines or something. Now definitely stick with alligators. Obviously they'd be CG because I cannot imagine how expensive it would be to train real-life alligators to do the stuff that they did in this movie. Opening bottle scene, it needs to be a real bottle. I don't care how. Maybe it's in a bathtub and they're just kind of shoving water on it. But there has to be an actual bottle bobbing up and down, being sprayed by the foam of the sea, just somehow trudging along on its epic and perilous journey until somehow it lands on the pier of New York City. And finally, Medusa still needs to have her shotgun. I mean, just rate the movie PG. In addition to the alligators, it shows that she is a woman of power. A woman who is not afraid to get her hands dirty or to do it herself. Is it a movie I would recommend? Well, that is a hard question. I'm kind of telling you all the goods as well as all the bads. I'd leave it up to you. After this review, you probably have a pretty good idea about what this movie is about. And if it's something that would interest you, I'm fairly certain that it's on Disney Plus. And even if it isn't, I have often run into places that sell DVDs. They've gotten into a point of technology where they can actually make it a double feature. So yeah, that's my 600 subscriber special. I hope you enjoyed my video, and I'll try to do something just as engaging for the 700 subscriber special. Until next time, keep having fun. Probably the thing I find the most fascinating is that they left this little survey card. They were wondering why you bought this movie. So just for fun, let's take this little survey right now. First, please join the Walt Disney Home Video mailing list. Fill out this card so that you can receive information about future video releases, and we will pay the postage. I wonder if it's still valid. Did you receive this video cassette as a gift? No, I bought it myself. For whom was this video cassette purchased? Sex and age. Well, maybe I was male at the time, and I was probably 13 to 17. Who selected this video cassette for purchase? Me. What's the primary reason that you purchased this video cassette? I love these answers here. A child asked for it. Somebody else asked for it. Good for the whole family. Saw it in the store. That was basically mine. I like the movie. Price. Makes a great gift. It's a classic film. And yeah, according to the box, it is classic. Oh, this one is the best. Owned the Rescuers Down Under video and wanted this too. What type of store was this video purchased? There's no thrift store. I guess I'd just put that under other. What was the name of the store? Salvation Army. What price did you pay for this video? About like $3 originally. And then maybe another 50 cents for the cover. How did you discover this Disney video cassette was available for purchase? I just found it. Which of the following Disney video cassettes do you already own? And it lists all the classics. 101 Dalmatians, Bambi, DuckTales the movie, Fantasia, The Great Mouse Detective, that's a good one, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Jungle Book, The Little Mermaid, Peter Pan, Rescuers Down Under, Robin Hood, Other. The Rescuers. In all honesty, I could check all those boxes. Most people got rid of their VHS tapes in order to get DVDs, but in all honesty, I never threw mine out because I never really saw the point in spending $20 for a movie you already own, and then you had to buy a new player for it. How long have you owned a VCR? All my life. How many VCRs do you own? About 3, I think. I like this. Are you male or female? Well, it depends on what time you're asking this question. Your age? I'd rather not say. That's one of those things I was told not to say on the internet. How many children live in your household? Unless you count me, none. What is your annual household income? Nah, I'm not even going to touch that.